You're watching the conversations on the budget for financial year 2021-2022, and joining me now is the chairperson of the Uganda Manufacturers Association, but also the executive director of Nice Household Plastics, Ms. Barbara Mulwana. Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to ask first about the budget and if it speaks to what's been one of the biggest concerns, the cost of credit in the market.
Thank you. Maurice, it's always nice to chat with you in a fantastic background and atmosphere. The cost of doing business is always a constraint for us as manufacturers. And I guess our challenge at the moment, what we know is that the government is going to borrow internally. So what's going to happen is that as manufacturers, we're going to be squeezed out on the pricing of the money that we're going to borrow. And that is going to have an impact on us because obviously we're now going to have to pay, the prices is going to be higher. I suppose as a manufacturers, we do understand that government needs this money and we do understand it going and borrowing this money. But what we'd like to see, because some of the things that they're going to do are going to impact us. You know, they're going to help us, whether it's infrastructure, whatever. But to us, what we ask the government is to make sure that the funds that they use are dedicated to the things that they say they're going to do. So we'd like to see more fighting on corruption and more accountability on the people who are there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we do understand that obviously UDB is going to be recapitalized and the other government bank, but from what I understand, it's only about 160 billion shillings, which is a small amount. So once again, our request as Uganda manufacturers is an increase of that wallet, because with the development banks and the government banks, it does help us in pricing, given the fact that, you know, we're going to be priced out with the government. I'll
move to the raft of new tax measures and incentives that government says are to ease the cost of doing business in Uganda. Does this address most of your outstanding issues?
We all know that we have just come out of COVID. And it's important to note that a lot of businesses, especially the small and medium-sized businesses, are struggling. What we would have wanted to see with some of the incentives or some of the offers is something that addresses those sort of issues. So issues, like I said, increased on borrowing from UDB. Because just like I said, as the government squeezes out manufacturers, the bigger manufacturers are going to squeeze out the smaller manufacturers and so on and so forth. And as we know that post-COVID, or even during COVID, the people and the industries or the businesses that have been affected are those SMEs. And if they can't have access to those financing, then it really is going to affect them. So what we would like to see is government to make a deliberate effort to actually assist them. The other area obviously is access to market. And we would have, you know, as manufacturers, we always say we wish government would not look too much at, would look at other levers of doing business. It's not just tax collection. How about putting more money in the Export Promotion Board, where that would then speak to our businesses having access to markets and export. So would like those sort of measures that would not only help, would help all manufacturers is what we believe.
Let's talk to the proposals on market access, especially our neighbors. Kenya, Tanzania, South Sudan. What are you telling government to address in those proposals to be able to open up those spaces for your manufacturers?
We know the government is doing a lot to try to see how to keep the dialogue with our neighbors, and would like that to continue. Because as you know, they are the quickest market for us to do business. What we'd like them to perhaps advocate for is in the East African community. And my question would be, what are they doing to strengthen that community, East African community? And then also putting in place certain measures in which basically bad behavior is, I don't know, people are accountable to in our community. If we're going to be in a community and you behave badly, then there should be some consequences. And I think that could only happen with the East African community strengthened and everybody realizing that it actually, you know.
There is a question on how, as the manufacturing sector, you could position yourselves to benefit from the African Continental Free Trade Area as the larger market beyond just East Africa.
It is, but you know, I like football. I like football. So you can say that, you know what, my, let me say Express. Express is a very, very...
You're an Express fan?
Finally
you're telling us the truth. I had always thought Mzee was a Villa fan.
No, he was, I think, long time ago. He was he was an Express fan. Okay, let me say Mamba.
Yes,
Mamba.
Better.
Mamba.
Mamba, yes.
So I'm a Mamba clan, and we have Mamba football.
Yes.
And you think that you're the best football player just because in the clan you come out on top.
The best.
Actually, it's always Mbogo, which is my mom's. But that's another story. But so when you decide that, okay, now let me go and play with the big boys. So now let me go to the Premier League. Well, you know, you're not prepared because there's so many, you haven't had the training, the exposure and all that sort of thing. So it's the same thing. We would like to play in the African Free Trade, and of course, its opportunities are immense. But we have a lot of catching up to do. What do I mean? The products that we make could be world class, but because of the cost of doing business, either the financing, whether it's the power, whether it's the labor, all that.
The transportation.
Logistics and all that stuff, that would make our products more expensive and therefore not able to compete on that level. And we look forward to that and would like to encourage that, but we have to know that there is going to be some challenges. And that's why, as Uganda manufacturers, it's vitally important that we start playing in this arena. Let's play in this league. So let's stay within East Africa and let's trade within East Africa. Let's start strengthening that bloc, East African bloc. Then we can trade with the South African bloc, the SADC. We can start COMESA and all that stuff. But then it becomes an equal playing field. But until that happens, it's a bit of a challenge.
I like that. That let's first deal with the Super League, and then
yes,
we can jump to the Champions League after we have sorted ourselves. And if we are the champions in the Super League.
Yes.
So one of the challenges you've been facing as an industry is the cost of power, which is really a major factor in the cost of doing business. And do you think you've done enough in pushing government to address the issue of the cost of power? Because the generation is increasing year on year, and there are several incentives in the sector for renewable energy. But are you doing enough to push for that cost to come down?
I think we'd like to thank the government because they've engaged us tremendously. President Museveni has engaged us, we've talked to him, and I think he understands the plight and the importance of power to the manufacturing sector. And to that, with that engagement, we're now talking about how can us as manufacturers get power directly from generation without going through all those middlemen that are there. And I do believe that we've gone a long, long way, and we'd like to appreciate him for that effort. And that would help on the cost of doing business. I mean, Maurice, if you look at the cost of doing business in Uganda versus Ethiopia versus Egypt, it's totally different. So once again, to the point that I said, if we're going to start playing on the East African Continental Free Trade, when that is a difference, that is different. We're not going to be competitive. So if we can get our power directly from generation, that is then moving closer to the 5-cent target that we're looking for. And then that would be huge in making us more competitive.
All right, now, I mean, my questions are done, but I also know your term of office is ending.
Yes.
You've been a great chairperson of the manufacturers.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want to take us through your experience? How has it been like as chairperson of the Manufacturers Association?
It's been an incredible honor.
Yes.
Because when you speak, you're not speaking by just yourself. You have to represent all the manufacturers in Uganda. But the fact that you're a manufacturer, you do understand their plight, you understand their concerns. What we have tried to do, me and my board, it's never me, and it's me and my board and the secretariat, is to make it more, to try to, okay, let's put it this way. When we came in, there were a little bit of challenges on financial, and we needed to clean that up. So that was the first thing. So we had to clean up the secretariat in terms of just making it more efficient. We had to then work on what we are supposed to be as Ugandan manufacturers, which is a policy and advocates association. And I believe that we've been able to accomplish that. We've really pushed that agenda to try to make sure that all levels of government and people understand the importance of manufacturing. What I'd wanted to do for my second term is to focus a little bit more on SMEs and women. However, COVID happened, and with that changed everything. So it was then became a survival mode. So 2020 was a survival mode. That was on my second term. But towards the end, we've had some webinars that speak to women, because I do believe that the future is women in manufacturing. We need to get those women, if you're in cottage industry, to move and scale up, to become bigger. Whether you're in trade, move into manufacturing. So I do hope that in this term I've been able to make manufacturing acceptable to not only Ugandans, but I hope in particular to women to understand that you can do it.
We want to thank you, and year on year we've seen the contribution of the manufacturing sector in the economy and GDP grow, so that's contribution we should thank you for. But we want to thank you as a Manufacturers Association and a chairperson for continuing to drive the manufacturing industry amidst this very tough time, COVID-19. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maurice, always a pleasure.
I've been speaking to Ms. Barbara Mulwana. She's the chairperson of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. We'll wait for the after party for that. But also she is the executive director of the Nice House of Plastics. And on another day, she will probably be speaking to you as chair of the Presidential CEO Forum, which is another conversation for another day. Thank you so much, Barbara. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Maurice.